I never thought I'd find myself in bed with James, our bodies tangled together like vines in a secret garden. But life has a way of surprising you, especially when you least expect it. My name is Natasha, and I've always found solace in nature's quiet magic. After my husband passed away, grief became my constant companion, leading me down an unexpected path, right into the overgrown garden of James Hartley, a 74-year-old widower whose eyes held more stories than his weathered hands could ever tell. It started on a sweltering summer afternoon when I first stepped onto his property. The scent of wilting roses and overgrown grass filled the air, a sad reminder of love once nurtured and then left to wither. James stood on his patio, watching me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. "It used to be her pride and joy," he murmured, his voice rough from disuse. "She'd hate to see it like this." The weight of his loss was palpable, but something inside me stirred. Maybe it was the way he looked at the dying garden, like it was a reflection of his own heart. I knew that feeling all too well. "Then we'll bring it back together," I offered, a small smile curving my lips. Over the next few weeks, our conversations grew from brief nods to lingering exchanges. James would sit with me in the garden, recounting stories of his late wife, Isabel, as I pruned and planted. "She loved roses," he'd say, gently brushing a petal between his fingers. "Said they reminded her of love, beautiful but sharp if you're not careful." One particularly humid afternoon, I was on my knees in the dirt when I felt James's presence closer than usual. Sweat trickled down my neck as I looked up to find him watching me, something unreadable flickering in his deep-set eyes. "You're good at this," he said softly, "bringing life back to something that's almost gone." I met his gaze. "You have to be gentle," I replied. "If you're too rough, you'll break them. But if you're too soft, they'll never grow strong." A slow, knowing smile spread across his lips. "Is that so, Natasha?" Something shifted between us that day. The silences grew charged, our touches lingering a fraction longer than necessary. The days stretched into evenings spent together, sipping wine on his patio as the garden slowly returned to life. We spoke of loss, of love, of the quiet ache of loneliness that neither of us had dared put into words before. And yet, through it all, there was an undeniable heat building between us, something neither of us acknowledged, yet couldn't ignore. One evening, after a long day tending to the garden, a summer storm rolled in. The sky darkened, rain pattering softly against the windows as thunder rumbled in the distance. I was about to leave when James caught my wrist, his grip firm but gentle. "Stay," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The air between us crackled with something unseen but deeply felt. I swallowed hard, my pulse quickening. "James." He stepped closer, his hands warm as they cupped mine. "Do you ever miss being close to someone?" I nodded, my throat suddenly tight. "Every single day." The confession hung between us, fragile yet heavy with meaning. James reached up, his fingers tracing the line of my jaw before tilting my chin up toward him. His touch sent a shiver through me, anticipation curling low in my belly. "Then let's not be lonely tonight," he murmured. His lips met mine, soft at first, then deepening as years of longing melted away. I let myself be pulled into him, my hands clutching his shirt as the rain beat against the windows. We moved through the dimly lit house, shedding clothes as we stumbled toward the bedroom. "Are you sure?" he asked, his breath warm against my neck. "Yes," I whispered, threading my fingers through his silver hair. "I want this. I want you." That night, we made love slowly, learning each other's bodies with a patience and tenderness that only comes with time and loss. His hands, rough from years of tending to the earth, traced my curves with the same careful devotion he showed a delicate bloom. I gasped as his lips explored me, as his body pressed against mine, igniting something I hadn't felt in years. There was no rush, no urgency, only the steady, aching need to feel, to connect, to remind ourselves that we were still alive. As we moved together, it wasn't just passion. It was something deeper, something that bloomed between us like the roses we had nurtured back to life. Afterward, we lay tangled in each other's arms, our bodies still humming from the intensity of it all. The moonlight cast soft shadows across the room, painting us in silver and longing. James let out a chuckle, his chest vibrating beneath my cheek. "What's so funny?" I asked, smiling against his skin. He pressed a kiss to my forehead, his voice warm with amusement. "I was just thinking that my doctor would be quite surprised by my renewed vigor." I laughed, tilting my head to look at him. "Well, we'll just have to tell him it's part of your new gardening regimen." James pulled me closer, his lips brushing mine once more. "Then I guess we'll have to make this a regular practice." Dawn broke in soft pinks and golds, spilling light through the curtains as we made love again. This time slower, savoring every touch, every whispered word. Later, we stood in the garden, coffee mugs in hand, watching the newly revived roses sway in the breeze. The air smelled sweeter, the world full of new possibilities. "You know," James mused, his arm tightening around my waist, "I think Isabel would approve. She always said a garden needs love to truly flourish." I leaned into him, feeling the steady rhythm of his heart against mine. "And what about the gardeners?" I asked, a smile playing on my lips. James pressed another lingering kiss to my temple. "I think they need love too, Natasha, and I'm grateful to have found it again with you." As we stood there, surrounded by the life we had nurtured together, I realized something profound. Love, like nature, always finds a way to bloom again, even in the most unexpected places. And this time I was ready to let it grow.